1. Introduction. My name is Gloria. I am 21 years old and I live in the big city of Los Angeles. My biggest dream is to become a famous model. I imagine my picture on the cover of magazines. But my real life is very different. I struggle with money every single day. I live in a tiny apartment, and I am always worried about paying my rent. Sometimes I do not have enough money for food. It is a hard life, and I often feel alone. But I hold on to my dream of a better future, a life with success and without financial problems. One evening, I get an invitation to a lavish party. The party is in a huge, beautiful house with bright lights and gardens. Many rich and famous people are there. They wear expensive clothes and beautiful jewelry. Waiters walk around with trays of champagne and delicious food. I feel very out of place. My dress is simple, and I do not know anybody. I stand in a corner, watching the world I want to join. Then, a man starts to walk toward me. He is older than most people there. He is 59 years old, and he has an air of power around him. I recognize him immediately. He is Vaughn, a very powerful movie producer. Everyone in the movie business knows his name. He stops directly in front of me and looks at me for a long moment. My heart begins to race with a mix of fear and excitement. "You have something special," he says. His voice is deep and confident. "You have star power." The words hang in the air. I am shocked. No one has ever said anything like that to me. I look at his expensive suit and his calm, serious face. My mind fills with hope. I think about my small, dark apartment and my constant worries. This man is the opposite of my life. He is successful and powerful. In that moment, everything changes for me. I do not see an older man. I see my one great chance to escape poverty. He is my ticket to a new life, a life of fame and security. My heart races with the hope that he can change my future forever. I believe he is the only person who can make my dreams come true. I look at him and I see my way out. 2. The offer I couldn't refuse. A few days after the party, Vaughn's assistant called me. He invited me to have dinner with Vaughn. My heart jumped with excitement. I spent 2 hours getting ready. I wore my only nice dress, hoping it looked expensive enough. When I arrived at the restaurant, my jaw dropped. It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. Everything seemed to be golden. The lights were soft, and the tables had perfect white cloths. All the waiters knew Vaughn. They greeted him with respect, calling him Mr. Vaughn. I felt like I was in a different world, a world I only saw in magazines. We sat at a quiet table in a private corner. He ordered delicious food and expensive wine without even looking at a menu. He asked me about my life and my dreams. I told him about my struggle to become a model. He listened with a serious expression. Then he looked directly into my eyes. "Gloria," he said, I am producing a new movie. It is a very important project. I want you to be the face of it. I want you to be the star." I could not believe his words. Me, a star in a big movie. It was more than I ever dared to dream. My difficult life suddenly felt very far away. I was still smiling about the movie offer when he spoke again. His voice was low and serious. "I have another proposal for you, Gloria," he said, leaning forward. "Marry me, be my wife, and I promise I will make you a star. You will have everything you have ever wanted." The air left my lungs. I just stared at him, completely shocked. My hands began to shake so much that I had to put them in my lap. Marry him? I barely knew this man. He was 59 years old, and I was only 21. It felt wrong and very strange. My mind was racing. Part of me was very scared, but another part of me thought about my real life. I thought about my small, empty apartment. I remembered the nights I was hungry because I did not have enough money for food. I thought about my dream of a better life, a life without constant worry. Vaughn was offering me an escape from all that pain. He was offering me a golden ticket to a world of luxury and fame. I looked across the table at him. He was patient, waiting for my answer. At that moment, the desire for security and success was much stronger than my fear. I told myself that love was a luxury I could not afford. Love did not pay bills or make you famous. Money did. I took a deep breath to calm my shaking hands. "Yes," I said quietly, but my voice was firm. "Yes, Vaughn, I will marry you." I had made my decision. I chose fame over feelings. I just hoped it was the right choice. 3. The scandalous wedding. The news about my engagement to Vaughn was everywhere. It spread through the city very quickly. Every newspaper and magazine had a big, bold headline: "Young model marries movie mogul." My picture was on the front page. I always dreamed of being famous, but this felt different. It was overwhelming and sudden. I could not leave the house without seeing photographers. The paparazzi were always there, waiting. They followed our car down every street. If we went to a restaurant for dinner, their cameras flashed and flashed, making it hard to see. I had no privacy. I felt like everyone was watching my every move. People on the street would point at me and whisper to each other. I often heard what they said. They called me a gold digger. They thought I did not love Vaughn and only wanted his money. Their words felt like small, sharp stones. My old life was gone, and so were my old friends. Some of them made jokes about me behind my back. They did not understand why I made this choice. My friend Leela was the most difficult. She was also a model and was always very competitive. Now, when she looked at me, her eyes were cold with hate. I knew the reason for her anger. She secretly wanted Vaughn for herself. She wanted his rich life. Her jealousy was a wall between us. Our wedding day was enormous and grand. The location was decorated with thousands of white flowers and sparkling lights. Hundreds of famous actors and important people were there. I wore a heavy wedding dress covered in real diamonds. Everyone drank expensive champagne from tall glasses. The cameras never stopped flashing. It was a storm of bright lights. From the outside, it looked like a perfect fairy tale. But inside, I did not feel like a princess. I smiled for all the pictures, but my heart felt heavy and sad. I looked at the expensive decorations and the big diamond ring on my finger. I had money. I had fame. I had everything I thought I wanted. But I felt completely trapped. I was like a beautiful bird with colorful feathers, but I was locked inside a large, golden cage. The cage was very pretty, but it was still a prison. I was a prisoner of my own dream. Life in a mansion of secrets. My new life was full of beautiful things. Vaughn bought me everything a girl could want. He gave me expensive gifts almost every day. There were diamond necklaces and designer dresses from Paris. He bought me 2 new luxury cars, one red and one white. We flew in private planes to Italy and Greece for short holidays. To the world, my life was perfect. I was living a dream, but our home was a big, quiet mansion. It had more than 20 rooms, but it always felt empty. The walls were high, and the floors were cold marble. It was like living in a beautiful museum, not a real home. The house was always clean and silent. I often walked through the long hallways alone. Vaughn was always working. He spent many hours in his office with the door closed. He was always on the phone, talking about his movies and his business. When he was with me, he was often quiet and distant. He did not ask about my day or my feelings. Sometimes he was very controlling. He told me what clothes to wear to parties. "Wear the blue dress, Gloria. It looks good for the photographers," he would say. He wanted me to look like the perfect wife. I started to see that the mansion had secrets. One afternoon, I found a locked door at the end of a long hallway. I asked Vaughn what was inside. "It is just storage, my dear. Do not worry about it," he said, but his voice was strange and he looked away from me. Another night, I heard him talking on the phone in a low voice. I could not hear everything, but I heard him say another woman's name. He quickly stopped talking when he saw me standing in the doorway. My heart felt heavy and cold. I had everything, but I was so lonely. People saw pictures of me in magazines. I was always smiling next to Vaughn at big events. They thought I was the happiest woman in the world, but inside, I felt sad and lost. The gossip never stopped. People still whispered that I only married him for his money. Every time I smiled for a camera, a small part of me felt more broken. This mansion was my golden cage, full of secrets. 5, temptation and true feelings. One day, I had a photo shoot for a famous magazine. The studio was busy with lights and people. I was wearing a beautiful dress, but I felt empty inside, like always. Then I met the photographer. His name was Ethan. He was young, with kind eyes and a warm smile. He was different from the other people I knew in this rich world. He did not look at my expensive clothes or my famous husband. He looked at me, Gloria. He talked to me during the shoot. He asked about my real dreams, not just about being a model. He asked what I liked to do on a normal day. We talked about books and music. With him, I did not feel like Vaughn's wife. I felt like a person. After the work was finished, he asked, "Do you want to get some coffee? We can talk more." I was scared, but I said yes. For the first time in many months, I felt a little happy. My heart felt light when I was with him. We went to a small, quiet cafe. We laughed and shared stories. Ethan told me he wanted to travel the world and take pictures of real people, not just famous models. I told him I wanted a simple life, a life where I could be myself. It was a wonderful afternoon. I forgot about the big, cold mansion and my lonely life. I felt a connection with Ethan. I thought, maybe this is what true feelings are like. Maybe this is love. But our simple coffee meeting became a big problem. A week later, a magazine published photos of us. The headline was big and bold: Vaughn's young wife with mystery man. My picture was everywhere. I was sitting with Ethan, smiling. When Vaughn saw the magazine, he became very angry. His face was red and his voice was loud. He threw the magazine on the floor. He looked at me with cold, hard eyes. "You belong to me," he shouted. "If you ever see him again, I will destroy you. I will end your career. You will have nothing." His words were like ice. I was so scared. I felt trapped again, but this time it was worse. I now knew what real happiness could feel like, and Vaughn was threatening to take it away forever. 6. The truth behind Vaughn. The days after my fight with Vaughn were cold and silent. He was angry about the photos with Ethan, and I was scared of his threats to destroy my career. The big mansion felt more like a prison than ever before. We did not speak to each other. He spent all his time in his office, and I stayed in my huge, empty room. The beautiful clothes and expensive jewelry in my closet felt like a costume for a very sad play. I was an actress in my own life, and I hated my role. One night, I could not sleep. The house was dark and completely quiet. I went downstairs to get a glass of water from the kitchen. As I passed Vaughn's office, I saw a thin line of light under the door. Then I heard his voice. He was on the phone, and he sounded very angry. The heavy wooden door was open just a little. I knew it was wrong to listen, but something pulled me closer. I could not stop myself. I stood in the dark hallway, my heart beating fast. I had to know his secrets. "The marriage was the perfect solution," Vaughn said into the phone. His voice was sharp. "Everyone forgot about that actress and her stupid scandal. Now all the newspapers write about is my new young wife." He laughed, a cold and empty sound. "Gloria, she was easy. She wanted fame, and I needed to change the story. It was a simple business deal, a strategic move." My body went cold. A scandal, another actress. My marriage was just a clever plan to hide his problems. I was not his wife. I was his shield. My heart did not break. It burned with a hot, white anger. All this time, I thought he married me because he was lonely or because he thought I was special. But the truth was much worse. I was just a tool for his business. The trips, the dresses, the empty promises, they were all part of his sick game. I felt so foolish and so used. I sold my freedom and my happiness for a complete lie. I looked at my hands. They were shaking with anger, not fear. I walked back to my room with a new strength. I was not the same person. I knew what I had to do. I could not stay in this golden cage for one more day. Fame means nothing if you lose your true self. I had to get out. 7. Breaking chains. My hands were cold, but my heart was on fire with anger. After I heard Vaughn's phone call, I knew I could not stay quiet. I walked to his large office in our mansion. He was sitting behind a big wooden desk, looking at some papers. He looked up when I entered the room. He did not smile. I knew this was the moment everything would change. I took a deep breath to find my courage. My whole body was shaking, but I had to do this. I had to speak the truth. "We need to talk," I said. My voice was not strong, but it was clear. "I know the real reason you married me. It was not for love. It was to protect your business from a scandal." Vaughn's face became hard and angry. He stood up from his chair and shouted at me. He told me I was ungrateful. He said he gave me a wonderful life with everything I wanted. I shouted back at him, and tears ran down my face. "You gave me things, not happiness," I cried. "Our marriage was a lie. You used me to fix your problems. I was just a piece in your game." Our painful fight filled the big, empty room. When the shouting stopped, I spoke again. My voice was quiet now. "I am leaving you, Vaughn," I said. "I don't want your money or this big house. I don't want the expensive cars or the designer clothes. I don't want to be famous if it means I am not free. I am ready to lose everything. It is okay. I need to find myself again." I expected him to shout more, but he did not. Something surprising happened. The anger left Vaughn's face. He looked old and very tired. He sat down slowly in his chair. For the first time, I saw the real man, not the powerful producer. He was a vulnerable person. "Please don't go," he said softly. He looked at me with sad eyes. "I am lonely, Gloria. I am so lonely. I am afraid of growing old all by myself." He started to cry quietly. I never saw him cry before. He was not a monster. He was just a scared man. He wiped his tears. "You can go," he said. "I will not stop you, but I have one last offer." He looked at me with a little hope in his eyes. "Can you stay? Not for the money, not for your career. Forget all of that. Can you stay with me for me? Maybe we can try to find real love together." His words hung in the air. I did not know what to say. My anger was gone. Now I only felt confused. I saw a lonely man who needed someone, but what did my heart truly want? I needed time to think. I needed to be alone to understand my future, my freedom, and what love really meant to me. 8. A different kind of love. Months passed. My life was completely different now. I was not Vaughn's wife anymore. I lived in a simple apartment that felt more like a home than the big, cold mansion ever did. I was still a model, but I worked on my own terms. The jobs were smaller and the pay was less, but every job was my choice. I worked hard every day. Some days were difficult, but I felt proud of myself. I was building a new life, one small step at a time. The newspapers and magazines still talked about me, but the stories changed. They did not call me a gold digger anymore. Instead, they wrote about a strong, independent woman who left a rich husband to find her own way. People saw me differently now. I was not just a scandal or a pretty face. I was a person with her own dreams and her own strength. This new respect felt much better than any diamond necklace or designer dress. It was something money could not buy. Ethan was by my side through everything. He was more than just my photographer. He was my partner and my best friend. His love was not loud or for show. It was quiet and steady. He held my hand when I was tired and celebrated with me when I got a new job. With him, I could be my true self. We laughed about small things and shared our future plans. Our love was simple and real. For the first time, I felt truly happy and free. One sunny afternoon, I saw Vaughn. I was walking past a small cafe, and he was sitting at a table outside, alone. There were no cameras, no assistants, and no reporters. He was just a man reading a newspaper. He looked up and our eyes met. I felt a little nervous, but he gave me a small, quiet smile. I smiled back and walked over to his table. "Gloria," he said softly, "you look happy." "I am," I answered. "How are you, Vaughn?" We talked for a few minutes. It was not a fight. There were no tears or angry words. We talked like two old friends. We asked about work and life. When it was time for me to go, we wished each other happiness. As I walked away, I understood the most important lesson. Love without freedom is not real love. A beautiful cage is still a cage. I finally learned that true success is not about money. It is about following your heart and being happy with the person you are.